By now, it should be glaringly apparent that Donald Trump's DOJ and Pam Bondi are slow-walking the release of the Epstein files. It looks like nothing short of an obvious cover-up. Not only did they not release everything they were required to yesterday, but large quantities of the information they did release were entirely blacked out. And I'll get back to that in just a second. But now, today, we are hearing from NPR that part of the Epstein files that were available to download yesterday are now suddenly missing as of Saturday afternoon. This piece is by Casey Morell from NPR News. It says the Justice Department started releasing Epstein file information related to the life, death, and criminal investigations of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Those files were being posted into the Epstein Library website, but now NPR has identified more than a dozen files that were released yesterday on Friday that are suddenly no longer available on Saturday afternoon, including one that shows President Trump's photo on a desk amongst several other photographs. The removed files also show various works of art, including those containing nudity. Skipping down in the reporting a little bit here, the DOJ did not immediately respond to NPR's request to comment on why the files were no longer available less than a day after they'd been posted. After the initial release of the files, some members of Congress have raised concerns about what is missing from the data sets. These are powerful men, bankers, politicians who we know from survivors, they've told us this, who were at these parties where there were many young women and a few were underage. There's no such thing as an underage woman. Ro Khanna here, whose quote I'm reading from, means children. No such thing as underage women. If politicians could please stop saying that. We are speaking of children. Okay, sorry, back to the quote. These powerful men, bankers, politicians who were at these parties where there were many young women, including children, and these powerful men knew about it and they didn't say anything, said Rep. Ro Khanna, Democrat of California. They need to at least be publicly held accountable. Rep. Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, and I'll get to him in the next video, who co-sponsored the Epstein Transparency Act with Ro Khanna in the House, criticized the redactions. Posting on X, he said that the release grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law. He also warned a future DOJ could convict the current Attorney General and others for not properly releasing all the files that the law mandated be made public. Apart from this photo that is suddenly no longer available to download, Trump's name and image appear rarely in the documents available. There are a few pictures of him with women and a framed photo of Epstein and a redacted woman with a $22,500 oversized check signed by Donald Trump. Trump wasn't mentioned very much this time around. He was a frequent subject of emails and text messages in another Epstein file tranche released by the White House Democratic Oversight Committee, with well over 1,000 different mentions of Trump, though mainly as the subject of Epstein's near obsession with his presidency, as the latter positioned himself as a Trump whisperer of sorts to his powerful associates. I mean, Donald Trump and Steve Bannon like this. Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein, like this. These guys they're all running together. And actually, I think it's incredibly conspicuous how little Donald Trump appears in Pam Bondi's dump of this information versus the Democratic Oversight Committee's dump. The discrepancy is really startling. When we see something like this.
This is one of the documents that the Justice Department released. It's 100 pages.
Right,
this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see. It's all black. It's just 100 pages of redaction. That's the transparency we're getting.
I don't know about you, but I kind of think our default position should be that unless proven otherwise, everything that is blacked out in the DOJ's release of the Epstein files obligatorily contains Donald Trump's name. It's real sus that the information we're getting from grand jury testimony and evidence, the information that we're getting from the Democratic Oversight Committee contains tons and tons of references and even photos of Donald Trump. But what we get from the release from Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's DOJ, includes almost no references to him and 100 pages of blacked out what's in there. We had reporting on August 1st of this year in Bloomberg, the New York Times, and others that Kash Patel, conspiracy theorist Kash Patel's FBI, spent an awful lot of time sharpieing out, redacting Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Now, Donald Trump has called his regime the most transparent administration in U.S. history. And that looks like 100 pages blacked out. That looks like Kash Patel pulling FBI officers off of other cases to have them scratch out Donald Trump's name. That's transparency. That's what we get from this regime. And let's not forget, Donald Trump's campaign promise was to declassify all material in the government's possession pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein. Then he very quickly pivoted after we found out that his name was all over it, after he saw that the public really wanted him to follow through on that campaign promise. All of a sudden, he started referring to it as the Epstein hoax. If it's a hoax, if there's nothing incriminating in there, then why does it all need to be blacked out? I mean, last year, Pam Bondi herself said, unless the information in the Epstein files contains the name of a child, another victim, or a cooperating defendant, that it should not be redacted. During his FBI Director Senate confirmation hearing, conspiracy theorist Kash Patel said that he would ensure, quote, the American public knows the full weight of what happened, end quote. Also good to remember here that back on February 27th, Pam Bondi told the American people that the Department of Justice was in the first phase of getting ready to release the Epstein files. But then by May, they were telling Donald Trump, oh shit, buddy, your name's all over this. And then very quickly it was, you know what? There's nothing to release. We have nothing to release. We're all done with this. We're moving on. It is only because of outrage from the American people, which in turn pushed members of Congress to continue to move in this direction, that we are getting this release now. I guarantee you the Trump regime was never going to drop anything they've dropped thus far without the push of us, the people. And they're still trying as hard as they can to cover up as much as they can, to obfuscate, to black out, to redact everything that they can. But I just don't understand. If nothing in there incriminates Donald Trump, then why is it? Why is it that he's got to continue to call it a hoax? He told us to move along. He called his own followers stupid for wanting the Epstein files to be released. Why is it that he's acting really guilty if there's nothing to hide? If it's all Democratic elites who are wrapped up in this, why are we not getting all of the information? Why are we not getting justice for Jeffrey Epstein's victims? I'm kind of not surprised to hear from NPR today that suddenly files that were released yesterday are now missing, now no longer downloadable. This regime is a hot fucking mess, right? This is a kakistocracy. This is what you get when people who don't know what they're doing are in charge of incredibly sensitive, important information, in charge of running the federal government of the United States. But also, they're so inept that they can do all kinds of corrupt things and then just blame it on ineptitude. And we don't really know. So I personally am going to be operating from a position of, unless I see something in print, if it is blacked out, I am going to assume that Donald Trump's name is in there. If something is redacted, my default position, and what I encourage the rest of y'all to take up, is, wow, that must be Donald Trump's name mentioned gajillions of times across 100 pages of blacked out information, because what else can it possibly be? And in conclusion here, I think Rep. Ro Khanna is right to continue to push this line of, you know what, if we don't get all of this information, if they don't comply with the law, we should be referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. I think that's the right position to take up. After all, don't we all want justice for Jeffrey Epstein's victims? Why is it that Pam Bondi and Donald Trump don't want justice for Jeffrey Epstein's victims? What are they hiding? Why would they want justice denied?